Hi, I was just thinking about the previous question about other cultures that had developed a systematic way to transcend. And I was wondering if you had come across something in like the tribal cultures across the world. They will chant or they'll drum or they'll dance or they'll fast or they'll do something to help their physiology enter into that transcendental state in a cultural, regular way, a traditional way. And I was wondering if you had ever come across a culture like that that had gained what we would call scientific knowledge of maybe the cycles of a time or the configuration of the universe. I think I've heard sometimes that in tribal cultures, they'll have a fairly accurate description of the cosmos, the formation of the universe, or star systems that are very far. And I just wondered if you'd ever come across something like that to show that, the experience of transcending and the field of all knowledge would result in maybe accurate empirical knowledge in a tribal culture.
Yeah, well, I've I found a lot of cultures. The Mayan culture, for example, of Central America. I can show you about 10 pictures of people sitting with their eyes closed in a lotus position. Secondly, they talk about in the beginning, the sea was silent, there were no waves. As the waves began to rise up, the world was created. The universe came out of the waves on the silent ocean. So it's almost like Maharishi's account of creation and unified field theory. Unified field theory is that
Anything more scientific as far as the arrangements of the stars or the structure of the universe that would be more closer to modern science descriptions? Just curious.
well, I think the real in ancient traditional cultures. Well, you find a lot of ancient traditional cultures that talk about excitations or vibrations, especially the Vedic tradition. I'll show you a dozen passages in the Vedic tradition where they talk about waves in an unbounded ocean of consciousness. And that is exactly what modern science has seen. And that's why we say modern science and Vedic science are describing the same reality. And so modern science, yes, but nothing more specific than there's a lot of cultures that describe waves, vibrations.
More on the consciousness side of if the universe emerging from consciousness.
Yes. Well, let me give you one example of Democritus of ancient Greece describes an infinite, he talks about the infinite void, and in the infinite void, there are atoms. And he says his method is to go from his method is exploration of consciousness, of going to the finer levels of consciousness. He actually talks about it that way. And what he experienced at the finest level is that atoms make up everything. Now, this is considered in the West the beginning of the atomist tradition. But what did he say about the atoms? He said, the atoms are vibrations in the infinite void. And his method of exploration of consciousness was how he knew it. And he says, the senses are so gross, get rid of them. You want to refine the senses and go to the deeper level. And that's how you know the nature of the atoms. They're vibrations in the infinite void. So yeah, if you consider Democritus an ancient traditional culture. Now, Black Elk is a beautiful example in volume 8, where he talks a lot about the infinite. Well, he talks about it in terms of his own experience of seeing the whole universe, and the whole universe is singing, dancing in the sense of vibrating in steps, the way the Indians dance, like up and down and rhythm. And the universe is a vibration in the infinite whole. The infinite whole vibrates. You can find many examples of that. So yeah, the Indian, the ancient cultures of Japan, also the Ani, talk about vibrations in the infinite void. And so there's a lot of different cultures that express that very same vision, but especially the Mayans. I think the Mayans were the clearest. And clearly I mean, you think of the Mayans, you think of human sacrifice. I mean, many people think of human sacrifice. Well, when the knowledge got lost in the Mayan tradition, they resorted to everything they could think of to try to get back the ideal paradise they had in the early days when they were practicing the transcending technique. And so, yeah, the Mayans resorted to human sacrifice, but that was just because they were desperate to try to get it back. But the Mayan culture, magnificent buildings, magnificent building in stone. I mean, it's like nothing else that has ever been. I mean, it's an amazing culture that existed right here in North America, in Mexico. And that culture was all fueled and inspired, created by people transcending. And there's at least 4 sculptures, stone sculptures, and 4 paintings I can show you that with people sitting with their eyes closed. So that, I think, I mean, that tells the story in a very vivid, graphic way.